All right, welcome y'all. Very excited to be here. My name is Maddie and I am the Resources and Campus Support Manager at the Students Learn, Students Vote Coalition, which is the largest national hub, nonpartisan hub. We have like some phrase that we use for increasing student voter participation in the country. We have many, many coalition partners, and the Andrew Goodman Foundation is one of our closest friends. My role specifically is I work a lot on the Ask Every Student initiative, and shout out to some of my friends who I work with through that. So I see Ashley's here and I think Deborah's here. I specifically, my role is that I work with campuses to develop resources to help anyone on any campus reach full student voter participation through something that we call the Ask Every Student framework. And just as a little kind of like thing that's related to this, we are going to be launching our new toolkit later this month. And we have a lot of really amazing campus created resources that we'll be launching there. And the one that the activity we're doing today is actually something that we developed in collaboration with one of our campuses we work with that we call co-designer campuses, who are really co-creators in all of this. And this was developed with Dr. Leah Murray from Weber State University. And is based off of some work that we've been doing in the coalition for a couple years. Today what we're going to be talking about is coalition building. We're going to talk about what is a coalition. I'm actually going to keep going. And together we're going to actually train you guys so that you can take this activity we're going to be doing back to your own community with your own campus, the people that you're organizing with. So we're going to do a little bit of a test version of it today, just so you learn how to do it, and then you're going to be able to actually put it into practice later. But yeah, we're going to go over what is a coalition, what are different kinds of coalitions a little bit, just to level set. And then we're going to have an interactive activity where you're going to identify what is your purpose, scope, gaps, what potential partners do you want to be bringing into your coalition based off of that, and how are you mapping your partnership outreach by power and support. So we'll be doing coalition building, and we're also going to think about power as well. So we're going to have a conversation about what is power and how can you increase the power of the work you're doing. Please feel free to add any questions into the chat about like anything that comes up, and I'll try to answer it as we go. But we'll get started. If anyone has any questions, throw it in there for now. Great. So like I mentioned, after the session, what you're going to be getting is the facilitator guide so that you can run this activity with your community. You can also start after that making a partner outreach plan. And then after that, start building partnerships and have one-on-ones and conduct outreach. Everything we're going to be doing today is very actionable stuff, which is really great, not just theoretical. So we're going to get started by just kind of asking, what is a coalition when we're talking about coalitions? According to Webster dictionary, I believe, or Merriam-Webster dictionary. A coalition is an alliance between different people, groups, and organizations who are working towards a common goal or a shared purpose. These can be used to build collective power, create community, and share resources. If you want to, in the chat, I'm going to try to keep it a little interactive as we go through. Can you share in the chat if you have a coalition right now on your campus, if you're working on building a coalition but aren't there yet, or if you do not have a coalition at all yet? So just kind of put that in there as I keep going, just to see where the different places people are coming at for this topic. Cool, so we'll keep going. Oops. There's a few different kinds of coalitions that exist. And today we're going to be thinking through, like, based off of those different kinds of coalitions, what are the different types of partner engagement that you're going to be wanting to do? So today we're really thinking about how are you bringing partners into your coalition? So the three different kinds, the first one is endorsement. So this is really low lift support. So this is kind of one of those coalitions that are really just kind of like a list of different people and organizations that have like signed on to it. So it gives you credibility, but you're not really asking for anything. You're just kind of saying like, oh, all of these people on our campus believe in this and support this, like in terms of their values and what they care about. So it's really just endorsing it. And you can do that to kind of get some sway from the stuff you're trying to do, but you're not really getting a lot of collaboration. But that's one kind. based off of that. The next one is associate. So this one is where you're actually really getting more kind of like participation. You're sharing information to your partners. And so everyone's kind of like, okay, I'm going to just pretend it's like me, Maddie, like running my campus coalition. People are like, okay, Maddie's really doing the work and making decisions, but we will take the information that she's sending us and we'll share it out with our own community, our own groups. So maybe the student life office is like, yeah, we'll send this out in our student life communications. Maybe like student organizations are like, oh yeah, we'll, forward this. And people will get to hear about it, but they're not making strategic direction. They're just kind of like listening to like sort of like the Maddie show. So that's what that one is. And then the last one is the partner model. And this is the one that is, the highest lift, the highest engagement, but also has the most shared power in the group. So there's a lot of participation. You're actually having a group of people that make decisions together. You share power. And a lot of the time this comes with regularly scheduled meetings. So it has a bigger ask, but it also has more shared power. Great to see the different types of coalitions that exist that y'all are talking about here. You have some that are always growing. You're developing them right now. You have a large, loosely based coalition with a small core of dedicated folks trying to solidify connections. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. So it's perfect. So the next thing you want to start with is like just kind of grounding yourself in purpose, scope, and gaps. So the purpose is thinking about like, what is the actual mission and general goals? So why do you have a coalition? Is it to increase student voter engagement? Is it to increase like organizing capacity of students? Is it to like educate students on civic engagement? And then kind of to that end, like what is the scope of it? So it's like, okay, yeah, we want to help students vote, perhaps. All right, so is the scope just about voting? Sometimes people are like, I just want to get election day like off. And so some people have very, very narrow scopes where they have one specific goal they're trying to get to. Maybe it's really broad. Maybe it's like, we want to make civic engagement part of our campus life, like part of our community. And so kind of starting yourself there, like, what are you actually trying to do? Because once you know what you're trying to do and how broad you're trying to be, that's going to help you determine which partners should be involved. We're going to be thinking a lot today about how different partners can help you meet those goals, and who's out of scope and who's within scope of that. The last thing that's really important to think about are the gaps in your coalition. So which student groups are underrepresented in your efforts? Which offices and departments are unengaged? So a really good resource to look at for this is NSOLV data if you have it. So that's the National Study of Learning, Voting, and Engagement from the Institute of Democracy and Higher Education at Tufts. And from there, you can actually sometimes see a lot of different demographics, whether that's majors, race and ethnicity, gender, age, and you can see the difference of voting rates. So maybe if you notice like, oh, on our campus, our Asian American student population is voting at maybe a lower rate than our white student population, you can start thinking about, all right, who are the local leaders on our own campus who are kind of like trusted ambassadors to those groups we're trying to work with better? Or maybe you have really low engagement from your STEM students, particularly in like an engineering department. And maybe you're like, okay, so we want to be able to maybe work with like a chair or like a trusted faculty member who has like a lot of clout from the engineering department to really start understanding how we're reaching those students better. And maybe it's really important that you are being able to work with the registrar for some of your goals. Maybe you're like, I want to be able to get a list of all the student names and reach out to every single student. They're not part of our coalition yet. That's maybe an office or department that's underengaged. So these are good places to start with. And then the things that you want to do next is once you're like, okay, this is our purpose, this is our scope, this is our gaps, think about the different kinds of partners, right? We kind of already started going there. What students are underrepresented? Which partners do those students trust and have relationships with? It's always a good thing to remember that, a lot of the time the person that's leading their voter engagement effort on a campus does not have relationships with every student group on the whole campus. Like that's kind of unrealistic. But there usually are kind of like trusted leaders who actually support those students and know those students and care about those students and love those students. And being able to really identify those like local leaders to bring them in to your work is really what the core of a lot of this is going to be about. So thinking about also partners who can support your coalition goals through access, outreach, programmatic support, and resources. Maybe you really need to get that presidential sign off. Maybe the president of your campus is going to be really key towards getting the goals that you're trying to achieve. Maybe being able to have you're trying to get a polling location on your campus is maybe your goal. So you're going to need to work with people that work in like the buildings and the sign off there. You maybe need government relations, all of the different kinds of folks that you might need to be able to work with to meet these goals. So we're going to be sharing some of these links in the chat, but when we get to the interactive portion of it, but I'll just kind of keep going through this. So what we're going to do today though, first is we're going to have a little Google document that we can share together. How many people are here? 16. Yeah, we could probably keep we can keep everybody together. So we're gonna just kind of share, you can use your own or you can use like a group one. But we're gonna be going through thinking about the different partners that you might wanna be reaching out to. And this is something that when you do this with your own campus, you'll have your own sheet for sure, but we're gonna just kind of play around with it today. You can do your own sheet right now though, if you want to. And I'll share that soon. But we're thinking about them in these 5 different groups on a campus because we're focusing today on campus coalitions. Of course, coalitions can exist not just on a campus, but for the purpose of, you know, the Andrew Goodman Foundation Summit and us all being the student voting space, that's what we'll focus on. So the different 5 categories are student leadership in groups. So that's thinking about like student organizations, student government, other types of student leadership that exists. The student affairs wing, the academic affairs wing of things, campus operations, and community partners as well. Cool. I think we can probably all stay together. I think because yeah, 14 people, because Caroline and I are here, it'll be fine. So once we have the list of all the people that you want to be reaching out to, and that's just kind of like anyone you would want to reach out to, you can start mapping it by power. So this is what I was talking about a little bit earlier of like, we're talking about power as well. We're not just talking about partnerships. What does power mean? In this case, the organizing methodology that I was taught on, what power is, it's the ability to act. Everyone has power. And what you're trying to do is build collective power towards reaching your shared goals. So thinking about how essential different partners are for reaching your goals is the amount of like power that they have. And they might also be like stopping you from reaching your goals. So for example, if you really need to get the president's office in this example right here to sign off on something, and in this like fake scenario that you see right here, like maybe the president's office is opposing your work. Maybe your campus is a very volatile campus that has a lot of like, you know, kind of like internal politics that the president's office is like, no, we don't want to talk about voting. That's really against us, but you really need to have them there. It's good to know that. On the other side, we have these like 4 quadrants, right? Of like people that are kind of like maybe not there or maybe opposed that are really important for trying to make the things you're trying to make happen. Maybe you have people that are super supportive of the work, and that's what that x-axis is. And maybe sometimes you have people that are really supportive to the work, but not helpful for reaching your goals. So in this scenario, you have the college Democrats, for example, that are like, okay, cool. They're really supportive. They really want to do this work, but we're really wanting to maintain nonpartisanship. And maybe on our campus, everyone sees this as like a sham for the Democratic Party or something like that. So they're not as helpful for helping us reach our goals in this context of really trying to push forward this nonpartisan approach, but they're really supportive. So we still want to bring them in. And we want to give them a voice and we want to give that space. And this is all just a rough example of something. And then you have people that are super supportive and also really essential for reaching your goals. And that's kind of the idea of where you want to try to get like most of your partnership in, is moving people there. So the other important thing about partnership mapping is it's dynamic. You don't want to just have everybody exist on your like map and never have them move around. You're really trying to get people to move as close you can to that B quadrant so that they are supportive and also essential for reaching your goals. And you want to try to give as much agency to the people there as you possibly can. Then the other kind of quadrant is quadrant D, which is they're not helpful and they're not supportive. And if they're there, you probably don't need to spend that much time focusing on those partners. Because the other thing here is like, it's all well and good to be like, we want to have as many people participating in this as we possibly can. But it's also important to think about the different kinds of roles that your partners might have in your coalition. So you might not have space or kind of capacity to try to organize like 50 partners into a monthly meeting. Maybe you have the capacity to organize like 5 key players. So for example, here, maybe it's government relations, the Black Student Union, the SGA, and the Center for Student Activities are kind of some of the partners that you really want to be focusing on to be part of that strategic direction. And then maybe you have others that kind of can show up, but you're not putting that effort in. It is honestly very tricky to try to organize people to show up and to do things in a coordinated way. And it's okay to be like making those decisions of like what's got to give. And also being able to note like this person is really, really supportive, so they're going to be there, and that's okay. But maybe if we really need to make sure that like this government relations person that like, you know, has buy-in and is important, but like doesn't have that like initiative and is really busy to show up, like how are we giving them that extra love? So what we're going to do today, like I mentioned, I'm going to stop my share now, is it's going to be pretty interactive for the rest of the day. Before we get started to move to the interactive section, I think we can all stay together. Does anybody have any questions? That was like kind of a lot of content. And this is really just the first step in a long process of building partnerships that are really meaningful, sustainable, and, you know, build a power for making change on your campus. So thank you all so much. Feel free to reach out to me. Happy to talk more one-on-one, and good luck with all the work you're doing this year. You're going to kill it.